everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining the ProMark, ProLogic Systems, and Rubrik webinar today. My name is Jessica Matthews, Senior Marketing Manager at ProMark. Today's presentation will last approximately 45 minutes. In terms of general housekeeping, your lines have been muted for the duration of the webinar. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the Q&A box on your screen. We will get to as many questions as possible, but if we do not get to yours, your question will be addressed directly via email. All attendees will receive a $25 gift card for attending today's webinar. Please be on the lookout for an e-gift card delivered to your email in the next 1 to 2 days. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us today. And now I'll hand things over to Steve Nakava, Senior SE at Rubrik. Steve, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jessica. Really appreciate it. Let me go ahead and share my screen and get us going. Alrighty. So today we're going to talk about improved resiliency against ransomware with Rubrik, and we're fortunate to be accompanied by ProLogic Systems. Again, my name is Steve Nakava. I'm a Rubrik Senior SE out of South Florida, and I'm very fortunate to be accompanied by Daniel Marmol, a ProMark Senior Solutions Architect. A little bit about me. I've been in the industry about 20 years, focused really on data center, cloud, hyperconverged technologies. And joined Rubrik about 3 years ago, focused on all of the accounts here in South Florida. As far as an agenda, the assumption here is that we're going to be reviewing security-centric information about Rubrik, but there may be some attendees that have not seen Rubrik before and they don't know what Rubrik is. So I may have maybe 2 or 3 slides just on a brief overview of Rubrik. We'll go over ransomware, kind of a brief primer. What is it? Various types of ransomware. We'll go over the financial impact of being hit by ransomware. And then we'll really dive into understanding the Rubrik differentiation and really define how Rubrik has your back. We'll talk about things like immutability against ransomware. Other terms that you may have heard in the industry may be things like air gap or completely immune or resistant to ransomware. We'll go above and beyond. We'll talk about the machine learning engine and the proactive artificial intelligence that's built into Rubrik, and we'll talk about Rubrik's incident recovery. It won't all be slides. We'll have a solution demo. We'll talk about some customer success stories, and we'll absolutely have some Q&A. So with that said, I usually get the question, let's do a little overview, but I usually get the question of, so why another data protection solution? And really, to answer that, it's important to really share the current landscape or what the landscape's been from the 90s till now. And some of you may have this, right? Everyone's got backup, but everyone's traditionally built their backup almost like an assembly line or an interrupter set, and they've purchased backup software from vendor A, they've installed it on backup servers from yet another vendor, vendor B. They scale their environment by adding media agents and proxies. They try to figure out how to replicate the data. While the backup's being indexed, it's also storing that index in a catalog database, so they're maintaining another database. And not many customers these days are writing the tape, although tape is not 100% dead, it's still out there. But traditionally, we've written it to tape and stuck it in a truck and sent it to a mountain somewhere. And that's kind of been what we've always done, and that's the operation we've leveraged for backup. And really, the only thing that's changed in this architecture really has been the introduction of deduplication and disk storage, and really deduplication and compression technologies have made disk storage more affordable. However, it's still the erector set that it's been. It hasn't evolved, it hasn't modernized, and Rubrik took a look at this and said, you know what? We really can modernize this architecture and make things easier, make things more streamlined, and build a software fabric that collapses all of that into a 2U 4-node architecture that scales out limitlessly and leverages either public cloud or private cloud for cost efficiency of long-term storage and compliance. And what we do is we can continue to scale infinitely if you'd like. We're never going to ask our customers to do a forklift upgrade, so you can start really, really small and scale to the very, very big. And natively, we're immutable to any type of ransomware or malware attacks, which really ensures reliability and recovery to our customers. So you normally get at this point, okay, well, that sounds great, Steve. How does this work? Is it hard to deploy? Like I said, I've been with Rubrik for about 3 years now. I've probably conducted well over a couple hundred installations or so. And it really is just like the sales reps and the partners talk about. It's very easy. It's a quick start, literally rack and go, auto discovery. There's not a lot to see during that. We support virtual machines, we support physical systems, we support cloud, we support NAS, we support everything that your legacy vendor supports, and then some. And what we do is we really take the day-to-day management that you know with jobs and schedules and tasks, and we kind of turn that paradigm upside down, and we leverage a very intelligent, adaptive, automated SLA policy engine that really just enables you to simplify management into really a business policy. And we're able to bring data in very, 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 very fast. Right? Since we're a node-based architecture and we scale out, we do our tasks in parallel, and we do one full and an incremental forever, truly an incremental forever. You never really have to do something called in the industry like a synthetic full or anything like that. We really reduce the RPOs, and we eliminate some of the tasks out there that other vendors have to be done. And then as far as recovery, we're able to surface our backups, so we call snapshots, and present them as live mounts for instant recovery. We can instantly recover virtual machines from multiple hypervisors. We can instantly recover mission critical databases like SQL and Oracle. Recovery is really a breeze. It's something that's just amazing about the product. Google-like search is built in, so you don't have to hunt and peck for the file that you're looking for. You literally start typing it in. There's predictive analytics that says, oh, are you looking for this file? Which one do you want? Do you want the one that's on the appliance? Do you want the one that's in the public cloud? And we go fetch it with no additional hardware needed. We also recently integrated CDP, or continuous data protection, and this is through our partnership with VMware. They have a API that allows us to do continuous backups, if you would. So no longer do you have to wait for your nightlies. You can actually now have mission critical systems that you recover up to the minute. We will be talking about security end to end. It goes without saying. I think encryption is table stakes in this market. I'm sure many of the products you have facilitate encryption, but Rubrik is definitely providing end-to-end, in-flight, at-rest encryption, coupled with a file system. Since it's a converged software fabric, the appliance also supports immutability, which is a differentiation we'll go into deep detail about. And then we leverage cloud. We leverage cloud in a couple of different ways. Usually my customers start out saying, hey, Steve, I need to store this data for 10 years, 20 years, forever. I got to keep it in healthcare. I've got to keep it beyond a patient's lifespan. So I can continue to buy Rubrik systems, or I really need to just find the cheapest tier of storage, and it's typically public cloud. And these cloud providers now really have the capability to really cost optimize and bring things very efficiently. So all my customers are storing it to those public clouds or repurposing existing storage. They may have assets that still have runway, and you can absolutely write to existing storage assets. And we call that cloud out. While we're sending data out to public cloud, there's also compute in the cloud that these cloud vendors want to provide and want you to leverage. And we have the capability to facilitate migration of on-prem virtual machines to a public cloud and support your cloud journey from on-prem to public. We call that cloud on for cloud instantiation. So let's dive into the cyber resiliency portion. That's kind of the overview of Rubrik. If you need a deeper dive or you want to get some hands-on, please reach out to your local sales rep or your local sales team, and they'll facilitate that for you. Really, I want to talk now and dive into ransomware protection as well as remediation and what's it look like with Rubrik. But before we dive into the Rubrik piece, we need to understand what is ransomware. And I'm hoping everyone knows this, but for those of you that may be new to the industry, ransomware is a form of malware. It blocks user access from accessing their files or their entire system completely, and then it kind of operates as a business. It really demands payment online in order to restore any type of access. And there's some specific types of ransomware. There's ransomware out there that are just kind of a nuisance. They lock the screen and really got to go back to a last known good. There's the crypto ransomware that a lot of you are familiar with, pay the Bitcoin, and we'll unencrypt your files, and you'll have restored access to it. And really, the purpose of the ransomware typically is extortion, but there may be a smokescreen for another crime that the bad guys are going to be leveraging. Some attack methods are, maybe malicious links. You may have heard of phishing emails, where the attacker can gain elevated command and control or admin level access to all resources in your environment. It may be delivered via a browser, maybe something that looks like your typical banking website, but it's a completely different site to ferret out passwords and keystrokes and log all that information, and then maybe the traditional OS vulnerabilities. And the one thing I'd like to note on this side really is it's polymorphic, meaning it's constantly getting more intelligent. So it's getting harder for traditional security applications to find them, detect them, and it's making it more difficult for all of our admins out there to mitigate them. And right now, we're all looking at a global pandemic, and the landscape's changing. We're all working remotely. The bad guys, they know about this. They're looking for vulnerabilities. They're looking to access corporate resources in your corporate facilities while you're VPN'd in. Everyone has to take a mad dash out of their offices and bring up remote working systems, and they are absolutely now sitting dormant, just waiting to extort. And there's quite a few high-value targets. And these high-value targets really are state and local governments, education, as well as healthcare. They're all seeing an increase in attack. Now, the FBI estimates that the market's about a $1 billion market. And what I mean by this is if, ransomware was a startup, they'd be a unicorn at this point. They're actually generating north of $1 billion in revenue. They're causing north of $100 billion in damages. So, everyone's got backup. I'd like to ask the question, well, why are we paying? Why are customers paying? If they have backup, and they get hit with ransomware, why don't they go back? So what Forrester's found is it's too lengthy of a recovery time. An average, that's about 7.3 days, according to Forrester. The other vector is that some customers are not able to recover. Ransomware is becoming more and more intelligent. It's not only attacking your primary storage, your primary files, but there's many cases there where they're even going after your backups, either encrypting them or completely deleting them. And this just ensures that, well, you're going to be left as a sitting duck, and you're going to have to pay. So it just ensures that they're going to make more money. And then the other reason is customers just don't have the visibility to what the scope of damage has been. They just don't know. They were impacted via an end user's laptop, and it sprawled into a couple of servers. They've got thousands of VMs or hundreds of VMs. They just don't know what's been impacted. And so, you know what? They kind of throw up their hands and throw in the white towel and say, we're just going to pay. It's just the easier route. It's going to take too long. Now, I will share with you, some of you have the products that you see on the right side of the screen. I'm not here to replace those products. What I'm telling you is those products are great. You need to use them. You need to leverage them. Everyone has to have a combination of them. However, it is absolutely a belt and suspenders approach. You need to complement them with a last line of defense. And the reason is no matter what type of endpoint protection or intrusion prevention system you have, you're going to get hit. And according to Sophos, out of all the companies that were infected with ransomware, maybe to your surprise, 75% of them were running up-to-date endpoint protection. So the question isn't like, how do you mitigate this from happening? You're going to try. You're going to put up your walls and your defense systems. But really the question becomes, well, okay, you were hit. Now, how fast can you recover? And how do you recover? What tools are you leveraging to facilitate that recovery? Right? So I want to go into a little bit detail of some of the differentiation between traditional legacy architecture and Rubrik. And what you see here is, on the left side is pretty much everyone in the industry that does not have immutability. And what I mean by that is they have a disk-based system as well as a primary SAN, and they have some backup systems. And when ransomware hits, it's going after the primary storage, It's going after the backup server. It's looking for common names. I don't need to mention specific names. You guys all know what you own, but it's going after those products. Those products, by their very nature and their architecture, write to an open, shared disk subsystem if you're writing to disk, and accepts reads and writes and overwrites. That's just how it works. So without that immutability, you would have to buy duplicate infrastructure to mitigate this. I've heard the term of things like air gapping, where you buy another complete isolated environment in a completely different data center in order to mitigate the problem with this architecture. Now, if you look on the right, you've got Rubrik's native immutability. And what that means is the storage behind Rubrik is not shared out on the network. It's completely locked down. There's zero end user access to the storage. Matter of fact, we take it a step further. We are certified immutable to the level where there is no, even if someone was able to gain access to the storage, there is no modify. And so you can't go ahead and modify the data. And we couple that with a patent technology called live mount, where we can do instant recovery of your application. So we really minimize the recovery process. More on that in a moment. Let's talk about recovery. So how would you recover with a traditional system? Right? You really would have to first identify the anomaly. And they really are hard to spot. They're getting a lot harder to spot. They're sitting dormant for a period of time. The reason for this is they like to sit dormant for a good 30, 60, 90 days, because typical backup policies are retaining data only for that long. And again, that just ensures that you're not going to have a recovery mechanism and you're going to have to pay. And so once you've identified, man, I've been hit, then you've got to figure out, well, where have I been hit? And, you know, at what point was I hit? And where was I hit at what point on what systems? So you'll start going into maybe some manual scripts, and you'll look at modified dates, and you'll look at different tools and different dashboards to figure out what was impacted. And then you have to figure out the recovery process. Okay, are we going to go to our backups? Is our backups safe? Do we have a tape archive? Do we have, you know, a storage replica? Do we have clones? My point here really is, it's not an operation that, oh, hey, we were hit on Tuesday. Let's just go back to Monday's backup in a couple hours. Everything's A-okay. It's just, it doesn't work that way. It literally takes days to weeks. And there's a couple of approaches, right? And when you've got the pressure on you to recover business applications, and you've got the pressure on you to recover your information, right? Because you've got customers depending on you, management depending on you, you've got various resources depending on you. There's the approach that a lot of folks take on the left side of the screen, like the meat cleaver approach, where you just, okay, boom, we're going to reinstall operating system, reinstall from the ground up. Just go ahead and try to recover from the last known good. And this gives you a pretty good amount of data loss, but, you know, hey, you're trying to ensure, I'm just going to that point in time that I know was okay if you had a good backup. And then on the right, you see really as the Rubrik method is, let's go ahead and let's identify exactly what's been impacted. And in this case, we're showing, hey, maybe it's only been 10% of the data. It's not 100% of our environment that we're taking a meat cleaver to. We're really looking at about 10% of that environment. We know that that's been impacted. And let's go ahead and granularly just recover that. That minimizes the time it takes to do the recovery. It also minimizes any type of data loss, and really gets us back up fast. So some industry averages, it's about 16 days of average downtime across enterprises, you know, from small size business to large. That's kind of a statistic from Q4 of 2019. The average payment per attack, it's not, you hear some of those crazy numbers, but these hackers and attackers, they want to ensure payment. So $84,000 is kind of like the US average payment per attack as of Q4 of 2019. That does not include the cost of the downtime. The cost of the downtime and the impact to business and the analysis that companies do afterwards is a lot greater, but that's kind of like the average payment. And then on average, it costs, you know, $141,000 per small business for the downtime per ransomware attack. And so we've got a real example here. We've held the name of the company back to protect them, but they had ransomware that wasn't detected until 3 days after the infection. It took them 2+ weeks to recover production data, and they honestly had no way to perform daily operations, and it cost them about $300,000 in recovery costs. So the Rubrik approach, let's go over this briefly and dive into some of the details here. Rubrik, since it's doing a one full and an incremental forever, we're in a position where we are acutely aware of all of the changes that are happening in your infrastructure. So we know that on Monday, the backup changed maybe 2%, and on Tuesday, another 2.5%, 3%. And all of a sudden on Wednesday, bang, something changed. It was a big, drastic shift from the norm, right? Because we've established a baseline and we benchmarked it. And we're actually able to benchmark this metadata against a global neural network. And now we're less than, we throw less than 1% false positive, which means we're about 99.98% accurate on identifying those anomalies. The other beautiful thing is, since we're backing up all of your data, we automatically know what's been impacted, or what we call the blast radius. So someone infiltrated via phishing attack. They maybe hit an administrator's laptop, gained elevated access to your systems. What did the malware do? Where did it go? We can quickly and clearly identify what applications and files were impacted, when and where. And then you can filter and choose your recovery. You couple that with the comfort level of knowing that Rubrik's storage system is completely immutable. So you know that you're recovering to a last known good. You gain that confidence to know that the data is never available in a read-write mode. It means it can never be overwritten. It can never be compromised by ransomware. Couple that with really, really fast recovery, called the instant recovery or live now. Right? And you can bring your RTOs from weeks down to hours. I'd like to talk a little bit more about our proactive analytics engine called Polaris Radar. It's a machine learning AI system. Rubrik is doing on stage one, it's doing analysis, and it may detect the anomaly using various file heuristics. And then it transfers this metadata. It's never transferring the data to the software as a service solution. It's just transferring the metadata. On stage two, if we've detected that anomaly, we'll go ahead and send a command down to scan for ransomware, look for signatures, and we return the confirmation back to Radar dashboard to say, yeah, it is in fact a ransomware. There is a high change rate, high amount of mods. Maybe someone changed Apple permissions. And at that point, the administrator is notified via either an email or via the SaaS dashboard, and the administrator can go ahead and take any corrective action. So let's talk about this. This is a bit of a different approach, right? This is not something that you install. It's not something that you manage. Basically, you're plugging into a global neural network that's providing you intelligence across our entire customer base. So let's talk about what we're doing and our vision. So when Rubrik does backups, it's indexing and scanning all the files to facilitate easy recovery for you. But what it's also doing on the file system is it's building a really intelligent metadata pool. Right, so there's zero implementation infrastructure required for you guys to leverage any of these applications, these web applications I'm talking about. Machine learning and AI and the neural network is built in. There's zero performance impact to the local protection or production environment. And what's beautiful about it is it's SaaS. We're updating it very, very frequently. We give you actionable results, and we provide you a global pane of glass. So whether you're a small customer managing one environment or a global enterprise managing data centers across the world, we really have a solution that can fit you. On the top left, you'll see we built in global search and management. I think that's, the manager of managers type of dashboard to get global compliance, whether I'm looking at my backup jobs or my protection jobs and my compliance across one region or across the globe. We're here today talking about ransomware recovery. So that's another application that we built on top of this Rubrik metadata. We've now released data classification that allows you to go a layer deeper and provide governance and compliance. Depending on which regulations you're governed by, we can dig into that data and identify where that critical data resides in your entire infrastructure. And we're going to continue to build these applications and expand upon our capabilities. I'd like to pause for a moment from the presentation and go into a quick demo and show you what the day would look like when you were attacked, if you were to be attacked, what it would look like with Rubrik. All right, let me go ahead and transition to that. Let me refresh my dashboard here. All right. So first and foremost, what you're looking at is what's called the Polaris GPS. This is included with all Rubrik purchases, and it is a global dashboard. It provides you a NOC-style view of everything that's going on. And this is our lab. And what you see here, you've got North America, South America, you've got Europe, Africa, et cetera. You've got Asia Pac. And this is where our clusters are deployed, whether they're physical appliances, or they're clusters that are in the cloud, or they're just remote office, branch office type organizations. You can see the information and manage and report against all of them, or one of them, or many of them, or a group of them that you'd like. Now, if you're interested in that, please reach out to your local sales team. They can dive in a little bit deeper. Today, what we're here to talk to you about is, hey, what's going on from a ransomware protection or an anomaly detection? And what you see is when you license this capability, you'll see that in this demo environment, we've got 5 anomalous events that were detected in the last 24 hours. So you should have received an alert via email, or if you log in the dashboard, you would see this. As you progress forward, what you'll see is all of the anomalies that have occurred and where they've occurred. And so what I'd like to do is just share with you that we've detected anomalous file system activity, and we have a high confidence level because we've gone back and scanned and done a heuristic scan, that we see high levels of encryption. And we'll actually diagram out, you've got here 1,566 files that were added, 46 that were modified, 1,560 that were actually removed. And so as you drill in and you want to go a layer deeper, okay, yikes, I was hit, what happened? Okay, now you know the specific object, and it's a VM named SH1-radar01. It's a virtual machine that was impacted on a specific cluster. This is the date that the impact happened. And now I see all of those file changes that occurred. And we do see a high level of encryption. And this is the point in time that we can recover from. Let's take a look and investigate what happened on that snapshot. So this is the identify portion. Now we go ahead and drill in. This replaces all of those manual scripts that you would traditionally use to find what's changed, right? Now, typical characteristics of a ransomware is they'll go ahead and, as you see here, they'll delete the good and add the bad. So you can filter on any of those items that you like. I'll just go ahead and filter on what was deleted and what was added. Not only do I identify that the virtual machine was impacted, but now I see the C drive was impacted. Now I want to go maybe a level deeper and take a look at, well, what on that C drive was impacted. It looks like I've got a lot of additions and deletions that occurred on the actual file share. So let me, if I want to recover all file shares, I can simply click the check mark and recover all file shares, but I'd like to show you a little bit more in the respective granularity. So let's drill into the file shares. You can see I've got various departments from engineering to finance to HR to IT and legal. And suppose you were hit, but you know what? It's not critical that we recover everything at the moment. There's just a few specific month-end reports that the finance department is asking you for. So you could now drill in with granularity and take a look at, okay, here, there's a specific PDF that was deleted. I want to bring that one back. Here's maybe a biweekly form sheet that I need, right? Maybe some reports, pick them off and go to next. So now you have the granularity to recover individual files, not just like the meat cleaver approach. You can go ahead and recover down to the granularity of individual files. If it was something where a person was standing right by your desk and you were in need of recovery, you could just download them. Download them directly off the Rubrik appliance or the public cloud where the archival data sits, and present them back to your end user. Is this the file that you needed, yes or no? The other option is you can send it back to the original location and overwrite the original. What I find is more common is customers are actually recovering to a separate folder, a separate path, right? And maybe they're recovering to like a C:/restore, right? Or test restore, and then you click recover. Really, that's it, right? And it would go ahead and facilitate that recovery for you. And that would be the day in the office if you were to be impacted by a ransomware and you had Rubrik. Very, very easy to recover. I'd like to just jump back to some of the success stories that we've had with customers and share those with you. And again, we've kept the names out on purpose. But if you'd like to know a little bit more, please, again, reach out to your local sales team. As far as some of the awards and accolades, in VMworld 2018, we got the best in show, and we didn't win just for data protection. We won for security, which is kind of wild for a data protection solution. We won in 2018 and we won in 2019. And so here you see one customer that is public has said, you know, Rubrik will help us protect our bottom line and potentially save us millions of euros. This is ASL Airlines France. If we did not have Rubrik, would not have been approved for a cyber insurance contract. We actually, because of our immutability, they were able to get cyber insurance. Now, when you talk about the impact from, or recovery impact from ransomware, there's really a tale of two cities, and this is where we've kept the names anonymous. One city did not have Rubrik for backup and ransomware. They were hit by SamSam ransomware in March of 2018. It propagated to take 424 software programs offline. They refused to pay the $51,000 initial ransom. The initial cost estimates were in about the $3 million range, and the estimated cost to remediate the damages was about $9.5 million. We have another customer that actually purchased Rubrik. It's a large city. They were hit by ransomware in January 2020. You could actually Google them online. It's a use case that we've got on our website as well. Took down several city services and websites. They encrypted over 15,000 files, and they experienced no data loss and no personal data that was taken. And we got a tweet out there, and the city was very public. They stated that it took about 24 hours later, and operations were back to normal. So really just a high confidence level in our ability to recover, the security of those backups, and your last line of defense. What I'd like to conclude with, everyone, before we take some questions, is if you're really interested in a lot of the data protection technologies I've talked to you today about at a high level, we were going to have a conference this year in Chicago. It was going to be our first global launch of a conference, but unfortunately for the pandemic, I'd say either unfortunately or fortunately due to the pandemic, now it's open to everybody. If you go to forward.rubrik.com, please register. It should be an incredible event where you're able to interact with similar customers, partners, share experiences, learn, and that's coming May 11th through 13th in 2020. And so, Jessica, I'm going to conclude here. I know we said about 45 minutes, but I tend to talk a little fast. So we're right about the 30-minute mark, and I'd like to open up if there's any questions. I'd like to please answer them.
Thanks, Steve. So far, we do not have any questions. We can wait a few more seconds, and if no questions come in, we will go ahead and end early. And if anyone thinks of any questions, they can just reach out to their sales team directly.
Awesome.
Okay, I am not seeing any questions come in, so I do want to thank everyone for their time today, and thank you, Steve, for your presentation. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out to your sales team via email, and be on the lookout for an email with your gift card in the next 1 to 2 days.
Thank you, Jessica. It's been a pleasure. And thank you, everybody, for coming today. And please stay safe. Take care.